Oh, there we go. Are we broadcasting again? So, no, the Canadian government didn't try to shut me down. This little rascal here unplugged my modem. Isn't that right, Rain? You unplugged my. Oh, now you're going to run away. You're going to run away now that I've called you on it. Now that I've called you on your crime of knocking my modem over. I don't know. Rain's a pretty big detractor, so it is what it is, I guess. One of the biggest detractors. Okay, let's see here. Okay, what's this? Let me see. Is this the same? Why does it default to monetization off? I never get that for these programs, but whatever. Oh wait, what what the fuck is going on? Is this live or is this not live? Okay, no, it's showing up now. Okay, that's weird. Okay, so for those of you who are coming back and wondering what the fuck just happened, there is a very simple reason to that, and that is that Rain was trying to get my attention, and she unplugged my modem, and that canceled the stream. It wasn't that I got shut down or anything like that. She just wanted attention, and then I pet her, and then she ran away. So it's pretty typical cat behavior, to be honest. Yeah, I get it. If you want to, ow. If you want to sit in my lap, you can sit in my lap. You don't have to like knock over my modem to try and interrupt my streaming. You're a bigger cat detractor than Jasper is, Rain. You're a bigger detractor than Jasper. So, what was I talking about again? Um, I was saying I'm hoping everybody's having a lovely Friday night. My Friday night hasn't been too bad so far. Kind of excited. I get to go back. I'm going to go back to Ontario in a couple weeks and see my family. So it's kind of rough moving out here. Um, in that regard, I don't know. I miss my parents. Rain, why are you making that noise? But the biggest Argent to try. It is. It is. But I was just saying to just kind of repeat what I was talking about before. So yeah, there's a bunch of anime reviews I need to do just because I started watching basically seasonal. And there's stuff like I want to review, but it's not like I don't know if I'll have anything too exciting to say about it. But I guess I'll just sit down and start doing them. I have like My Happy Marriage I need to do. Maybe I'll review some of the izakais that came out. Just to put some other content up other than just Ukraine videos. But it's to be fair to me, like a lot of shit's been going down with Ukraine. A lot of shit's been going down with Ukraine the last week or two. Like, let me see what all came out this summer. Liar, Liar, which I actually thought was pretty good. Um, Am I actually the strongest, which was not good. Um, My Happy Marriage, which I actually kind of liked. Zom 100, which was actually pretty good. Um, they're bringing Bleach back. Apparently, they're like restarting. They're doing Bleach again after like 6 years off, and we have Yahaba now, so that'll be cool. My understanding is that's how you pronounce his name, Yahaba. Um, Yahaba. It has like the most unpronounceable name of all time. If anyone knows who I'm talking about, the head of the Quincy's, the Almighty. The Japanese version calls him Yahabaha because it's like a Japanese thing to add the extra syllable on. I like the Thousand Year Blood War German castle state. Yeah, Yahaba did nothing wrong. I think he sounds kind of based. Like the afterlife in Bleach sucks so much. He's like the only guy who actually has like a solution to the whole thing. Um, my personal belief is that the hollows that Quincy's kill are released from the cycle of reincarnation and achieve samsara rather than being destroyed. But it's I don't know, just the world of Bleach really sucks because the world's the world, but the afterlife seems worse. Um, Soul Society seems substantially worse than our world, but writing a book about a comparison between Leonidas and Themistocles only cared about self-aggrandizement and wealth procurement. Leonidas is a chat I know off topic. But yeah, like Yahaba. Also, he just looks like a Chad. He's got like the massive mustache. It was funny because the first time I saw him, I was like, he looks really familiar. And then someone pointed out that Ichigo's what is it, Zaibaku? It's been so long since I've watched it. Is a looks exactly the same as him, and I was like, oh, that's where he's from. So I only watched like the first season of Bleach or something. It was just too long. It was just too long. It has the same problem a lot of like shonen has, where there's a lot of characters I like, but there's just so many characters, no one gets any screen time. And I didn't like. Oh, thank you, Darth Killen. I appreciate that. I will take that shekel. Um, like there's a bunch of Bleach characters. I didn't like a lot of the main characters. I kind of like Ichigo. I didn't really like Orihime that much. Rukia is like a piece of paper. She's like one of the most. I really disliked Rukia just because she was boring as fuck. Chad is like an illegal immigrant. Um, or is he an American serviceman's son? I don't know, but I didn't like Chad. Ironically enough. Um, yeah. I think Hitsugaya is my favorite. I like Hitsugaya and Matsumoto's dynamic a lot. I think that's my favorite Bleach ship is Hitsugaya and Matsumoto. That's his name, right? Hitsugaya, or is it? Because his first name's Toshiro, so I think it's his name's Toshiro Hitsugaya. But I like him and Matsumoto um, quite a bit. But I don't know. I've just never like been the biggest shonen fan. I think partially just because it's so long. Like I kind of like Naruto, but I didn't really. I never watched Shippuden. I did like read plot summaries of everything that happened though. Like I read plot summaries because I was interested in the story, but it's just so long and there's so much filler, and I just find Naruto's character really annoying. Um, it's interesting in certain fandoms. The MC is completely different, and like the fanon, basically everybody, like everybody in the Naruto fandom writes Naruto completely different than the show version. Like he's always substantially smarter. 'Cause he's like almost mentally retarded in the show. He's always substantially smarter. Harry Potter's also like that, where Harry's always way smarter in fan fiction than he is in the books. But Sasuke, I hate Sasuke. Anyone with a brain hates Sasuke. Hinata is like literal trad waifu, um, like literal best girl. But there's like a lot of the minor character. I like a lot of the minor characters in Naruto. My favorite character is the big three. Went on longer than most shonen. Is the big three Bleach, Naruto, and One Piece? I think. No, my favorite Naruto character by far is Jiraiya. I really love Jiraiya. I just think he's a very interesting character who has like a lot of depth to him. It's just not immediately obvious. I kind of view his like so how I kind of view him is that Tsunade is the love of his life, and a lot of his perversion is like him coping with the fact that like the only woman he's ever loved just rejects him. So, but I like him a lot. Except I didn't like when he first showed up because he stole. I don't like when he steals Naruto's stuff, but I do find him interesting as being a kind of a complicated character. I hate Sasuke. I've always hated Sasuke. I hate Sakura. I think the Phantom almost. Jiraiya, I think, might have the best death scene of anything. Like his death scene is just so perfect. It just ties so much stuff together. Um, like him talking about how his life was a series of failures. He never achieved anything. Um, even references back to like the book he wrote that no one read, that no one bought, and then he kind of realizes that yes, he did train Naruto, so his life had meaning to it. Um, yeah, I've always liked I like Dry is interesting. Yeah, because one of the biggest themes of Naruto, and Naruto is kind of it is kind of right wing in a sense. Other than the fact that like the Will of Fire is basically just nationalism, the core theme of the show is that the older generation passes down its dreams and wishes to the next generation. Um, and it just focuses a lot on like the intergenerational chain of being and stuff like that. I actually really like Pain. I think Pain was the best villain. I think Pain is one of my like favorite villains in anything. Um, just because he's like a villain, but he's very understandable, and you can really like tell how he became the way he was. And he's also a good foil for Naruto because he's a lot like Naruto, down to them both being Uzumakis. But no, I like Pain a lot. Um, he was a cool villain. I hated the Obito twist. The Obito twist was really lame. I just yeah, but I'm trying to remember. I think it was Ultimate Ninja Storm like 3. I played, or it was two or three or four, and it was really good because it covered like a lot of the like more emotional moments from Shippuden. Like it covered Naruto and Kyuubi finally coming to like terms with each other. It covered just a lot of stuff like that. But no, I'd say my biggest issue with shonen is I generally think the fewer main characters something has, the better, and it's rare that something that has a lot of main characters. It's rare that something gets better by adding more main characters to it. Like I think the reason why, in my opinion, Teen Titans is by far the best superhero show of all time is you had five main characters, you had some recurring characters, but in a lot of these like superhero shows, there's like 50 people and none of them get any development or any screen time. So that's kind of my issue with a lot of it. So, according to Tucker, if we're going to believe what Tucker said, Deputy of Defense, the Secretary of Defense, I forget his name, Lloyd Austin, went to Congress and said that uh, unless you pass this aid package, it's quite likely that America will have to put boots on the ground in Ukraine, and we will send your sons, uncles, and fathers to go fight in Ukraine. Was what they said. I don't know why they didn't say daughters. I guess it was sexism, but uh, yeah. So I don't know. I was wondering today because someone was like telling me off. Maybe I'm wrong about all of this. Maybe like Russia is going to invade the Baltic states. Maybe they're going to invade Finland. Maybe I'm just incredibly naive. Um, and I'm not reading any of this stuff properly. Because I don't know. I just don't think that Putin's going to start a war with a NATO member. So, but maybe I could be wrong. Maybe he is planning an invasion of Europe. I don't know. I think it's always important, like, to ask these questions of yourselves. Like, are my are my assumptions right? Are my assumptions like flawed? That sort of thing. The problem is, it's very much, well, the whole point of the boy who cried wolf thing is that ultimately in a lot of cases in life all you have is your word, and if you constantly lie about everything, then no one's going to believe you when you're actually telling the truth. So there's been so many lies over this whole conflict that particularly from like the Biden administration and the mainstream media. It's like even if there was some plan like that, I wouldn't believe it. I think the thing that I find the most fascinating is how they're saying that the situation's so desperate, we're gonna have to like go to direct war with Russia. And I'm like, but I thought Russia sucked. Like they've been saying for the last 2 years, Russia sucks. Russia's lost 50, 60, 70% of its military capacity. Like millions of Russians have died. Their economy's in tatters. And if all of this is true, like if they were not lying then why is it like why is it so important to like start a war with them if they're collapsing? It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but I don't know. I mean, I guess people will say, well, you have to expect them to lie for political gain, and I get that, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Do you really, though? So, I don't know. The funding doesn't look like it's going to pass. It's so funny because literally all the Republicans said is we want you to secure the border and we want a plan for what's going to happen in Ukraine. Like we need like what is this $70 billion going to be used for? And they're just like, look, we can't tell you what the money's going to be used for. It's just like what? Like at my job, I can't spend like $10 of like my company's money without having like multiple bids and stuff like that. The expectation is like, yeah, just give us like $70 billion. We aren't going to tell you what we're going to do with it, and everything will be good. And it's just like only the U.S. government could do something, pull something like that. I wish though that that was how life worked. Like you could just go up to somebody and say like, "Give me $60 billion, or else an unspecified thing, bad thing will happen. I can't explain what the thing is. I can't explain how giving me the money will stop it, but just trust me, bro. I'm Hunter Biden, the big guy." I love the big guy is like one of my favorite memes, like my favorite Biden memes. Oh, Rourke, you can watch whoever you want. Doesn't matter. I just it's just Friday night. And I sometimes like to come on and just talk to who's ever around. What was I saying again? Something about Congress. Yeah, I need to do. I have a video I'm gonna do about the link between fascism and libertarianism. That is why it seems like there's so many people who kind of will go between these diametrically opposed ideologies. Um, I think what it is, and I think there is a very like simple reason. It's better to have nothing than something bad. So like if you had like your fascist state or your authoritarian conservative state and you could censor certain things, but you could like have it censor stuff that you think should be censored, then that would be cool. But it's better to have nothing, like no censorship, than like have the current people we have doing it. I think that's true for a lot of stuff, like be it the police or um, I don't know, domestic spying or government programs or a lot of stuff like that. Like you might support some of these things if there was like a government that didn't actively hate you in power, but because you have such a natural just disdain for it. So that's what I think. Anyways, I think that makes sense. Let's see here. Yeah, the Pentagon Bros. Like, I like how them asking for like an audit. Like, could you tell us like where the money went that you gave to Ukraine? No, we can't tell you where it went. Like, did it go to buy weapons? Did it go to like build stuff? Like where did the money go? We can't tell you. We know every penny of American money has been properly spent. None of it's been taken in corruption, but you can't do an audit. We can't tell you where it is. I mean, so like a lot of social programs can work if you live in a high trust society um, where you don't have an underclass or you don't have what my friend likes to call the stealing class and the dealing class. Like socialism probably somewhat worked in Scandinavia before mass immigration. Um, it probably was like not that bad there. Although socialism in Scandinavia is weird because there's a lot of government spending on social programs. I don't think the economy is particularly state run though. My understanding is in some ways that the economy is actually less regulated in terms of like the private sector than the U.S. or Canada is. So, but well, as I've said, the U.S. just has like the worst systems. It's like it's this chimera of like the worst aspects of a public and a private system. A more private system would be better, and a more public system would be better. Instead, it's just expensive and doesn't provide coverage. So, although we don't have coverage for a lot of things in Canada, I think people think we do. Like we don't have dental, we don't have eye care, we don't have drugs, medical supplies, medical devices, stuff like that. But the new claim is that like oh we have to spend like I think in addition to the money they want to spend on Ukraine, they want to like give another $50 billion to the MIC in order to like build factories. Like, here's the thing: America's military industrial complex sucks, and it probably does need some redevelopment. But the money's not going to go with that. It's not going to like actually go to that. It's not going to go to making like factories that produce guns or shells or bombs. It's going to go to like shit like the F-35 and like some bullshit missiles that cost like $400,000 per shot. It's not going to go to like useful military production. So, yeah. Yeah, affirmative action is a big problem. Well, to me, to my mind, I firmly believe that HR departments largely exist just to give women white collar jobs. I think if there was not like hiring quotas, HR departments would just not exist, or they would be like much smaller than they are. I think it's entirely created just to give like underqualified women white collar jobs. It is interesting though. So I was reading someone had wrote about how the proportion of women who work in government in Canada. So it's something like I think 60% of government employees are women because of affirmative action. So their complaint was only 55% of management were women. So like the complaint was that women were not as overrepresented among like the civil service in the management as they are. They're overrepresented, but they aren't overrepresented enough. Um, is like the logic I was getting. There are also like indigenous people make up like 1.5% of the country, and they're only 1.4% of. I'm like, that's like it's not how reality works. It's just not. It's like the she session thing. The she session was one of the most G slur things I've ever heard. Just the name. Like, if you're someone who seriously says she session, then I don't know. I can't say that on YouTube. I don't even think there was a she session. I think it was just made up. Yeah, one of my favorite Twitter pages or Twitter profiles at the moment is I like the women posting their L's and single moms posting their L's ones. Those are amazing. Um, so much of it is just like from dating sites, like how tall are you, how big are, and then the response is like how big are your boobs, um, how much do you weigh, and the women always get like super triggered. But granted, most of it is probably fake, but or no, I don't think the single mom dating profiles are fake. I think those are probably real. A lot of the conversations are probably fake, but I'm sure there's a lot of single mom dating profiles. Honestly, if we're gonna talk about stuff that's G slur, I think one of the most G slur things of all time is the adoption of the phrase partner to refer to any intimate, like any romantic relationship, because it's basically just been adopted as a way to gaslight people, so you don't know if they're gay or not. Because if like you're a male and you say my girlfriend or my wife, then you'll know what their marital status is, and you'll know what their sexual or preference is. So if we just force everybody to use the term partner, you have no idea um, what it is, and so it's just to make you feel um, nervous. It's to check your assumptions. It's just if I ever get married and I call my wife my partner, I'm gonna like you have the right to kill me. To be perfectly honest, it's so cringe. We can't judge people who don't get married. I like that. That was the funny joke in Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series, where Bakura and Merrick are talking, and Merrick's like, Bakura's like, we should be partners. And he's like, you mean like partners in crime? And he's like, yes, that's exactly what I meant. I was watching Serp put out like a video about autogynephilia, and it was like one of the most schizo. It was good. Anything Serp does that's schizo post for like 2 hours is awesome. Oh no, the abridged series went way downhill. Lil Karibo is he a literal cuckold? I thought I saw something about him being a literal one. I could be wrong though. But like going back and rewatching it, remember when you could make gay jokes? Remember when you could like make like the abridged series is not like is so edgy by today's standards you couldn't make it by virtue of it having gay jokes. Like you just can't even do that anymore. And having sex jokes and having rape jokes. Yeah, Destiny. Yeah, I know of Destiny. I've never watched him, and I don't really know a ton about him. Um, but I know he used to stream on Cozy for some reason. I don't. That was so weird when Destiny was on Cozy. Like, what? Why did that happen? These are all very good questions. So I know like the distributist on Twitter, he's like, yeah, Destiny doesn't have anything to offer. And my response was except his wife. Aren't they in an open marriage or something like that? Oh, okay. Yeah, an open. Of course he is. They were legally married too. Okay. So I'm sure she'll get massive we have no fault divorce now, so I'm sure she'll get massive amounts of uh stuff from him. And he won't learn anything from it, and he'll just continue to be a simp. The Virgin Destiny, the Chad PewDiePie. I think PewDiePie and Marissa have at least one kid now. Uh, yeah, they have one kid so far. Hopefully, they'll have like 5 kids. Um, that would be cool. I've never really watched PewDiePie, but congrats on him like to marry like a girl who's not a skank and like actually marry her, and like they have a kid now. So I'm credit where credit's due. Um, no, Destiny's always been a cuck. I remember he's a cuck, but doesn't he? Didn't he like insert himself into like the alt right, and he would like debate people? I admit I never watched many of those debates. They just always seemed really cringy to me. Um, I just didn't want to like hear anything. No, I don't have strong opinions on PewDiePie. I just like that he's. I'll give him credit for that, for like actually getting married and having a kid, and for not being a cock. Why was Destiny on Cozy though? That's the thing I can never understand. I don't know. It's too bad like where Kino Casino went because I actually like watched every episode of it until Boxed Winegate. Um, a combination of Boxed Winegate and just Andy Worski's abortion stance. Um, and that PPP went along with it and thought it was like funny. I did not care for that, so I don't really talk about it very often because I don't want to be involved with it. But um, yeah, but no, like I really hate Andy Worski's such a piece of shit. I hate Andy Worski. Also, he ruins the show. Like he got progressively worse as Kino Casino went on, with like the Worski Games Admirer for $20. Let's fucking go, and like just not adding anything, just low IQ interruptions. Andy Worski, yeah, he is like 70 IQ, like, but he's not like endearing. Like some people are like, oh well, he's the endearing retarded Phoenix. I'm like, no, he isn't though. He's such a piece of shit though. I used to talk to PPP a little. He came on one of my election night streams, the last Canadian election night stream he came on. I don't think we're on good terms. We probably aren't on good terms anymore since he started Kino Casino, because I made fun of him a bunch. Like I made fun of their shitty bog hog thing, so I haven't talked to him, but that's good because I never really. It's probably good to not like be very involved with these people because like everybody involved with these people gets snaked or doxxed or has something else unpleasant happen. It's actually it's like one of the reasons why I probably still have a YouTube channel is because I didn't get involved with like MW or like any of those guys that much or like TRS or any of those weirders. Did I see the old video of Ralph getting beaten up by Bro and the tranny? Yeah, someone called them the Transon family, which I thought was pretty funny. Um, that was like one of the few cool things Ralph has ever done. But why did they think bringing Ralph onto Cozy was a good idea? Because I had like an argument with Classical Theist over this. Uh, we had a couple like major arguments about that because I told him he shouldn't be going on the kill stream because Ralph is a degenerate and he shouldn't be making him any money. He shouldn't be providing him with money. And then he came on Cozy and he's like, "Oh, he's a changed man." He's like no, he's a fucking like pill popping alcoholic redneck revenge porn degenerate. Like you can't trust someone like Ralph. I hope he does get his life together, but you just like it's just. Oh, so Digibro's homeless now? Okay, well that's good. That's a feel good. Let's feel good. The other thing with Kino Casino is I kind of hate it how like Ashton was like, okay, I'm going back on all the stuff I said, so I'm gonna go back on it as abrasively as possible. Like, I'm not gonna just start accepting donations. I'm just going to like, it's gonna be the Hollywood PPP arc. I'm just gonna constantly like yell out for donations and make it as annoying as possible. I don't know. The person I actually dislike the most, though, in that sphere is Godwinson. I really hate Godwinson, and I've always really hated Godwinson. Godwinson is like, I don't think people realize sometimes how much of a snake he is. Um, like, if you've seen any of his videos over time, he lies a lot. Like he will directly contradict himself from like one video to the next. And I mean, he'll admit that. He'll say, I just want to make Kino, and anything I find that like um anything that I find that makes people look bad or is funny, I'm just going to present as the truth. Like with regards to like, so the big one to me, and this was probably the most obvious one. I know we're getting into some like deep internet drama lore here, but so when Ralph's sex tape came out, Gator like denounced it. Like Gator said that it was like he didn't support Ralph. Ralph shouldn't have done it. He didn't believe that Ralph didn't leak it. Uh, that it was like that Ralph's life was a disaster. But recently, like Godwinson did like another attack video on Gator, and in that video he said that Gator supported and defended Ralph for leaking the revenge porn. And like, but he didn't. Like I saw your video where you yelled about like you did like a 40-minute long video about that. It's just I just don't like stuff like that. Something that really irritates me is people who lie when they don't have to. It's like when people lie about Pope Francis or Biden or like I don't know, the Democrats or AOC or something. Like these people are such like freaks. You don't need to make up shit about them. If you make up shit, it just makes you look like it just makes the rest of us look like we're really dumb. Like it's tough. It's tough. Well, the term the snakening comes from a Godwinson video. Because the snakening was like something from like some esoteric deep lore from like 10 years ago with like Ace Ciliary and all these other people snaked one of their friends or something like that. Best Canadian province. That's an interesting question. Um, you're gonna have to be like best in what sense? Like the best place to live, the best climate, the best like politically, the best economically. Um, I guess it's hard. It's hard. I actually am not minding. So the thing about Manitoba is it's the prairies, but at least where Winnipeg's located, we're on the Canadian Shield, so there is like a lot of like decent natural stuff around here. Saskatchewan is just like the most boring province in Canada. Um, I'd say maybe like Nova Scotia or Alberta. Nova Scotia is not wealthy, but it's just a very beautiful province with like a nice temperate climate. PEI, I'm sure, is also nice. The best place to send my First Nation child to boarding school? That's an interesting question. So the thing about that is, so one of the reasons why boarding schools exist, period, not for like Indigenous kids, but just in general, a lot of it is for rural people who their kids can't commute to school every day. Like if you're living out in like a small town and it's not big enough for there to be a school, and it's like 6 hours to the closest school, you kind of need the person to stay there. That's just kind of like the reality of the situation. So like it is kind of like it's presented like the inherent idea of it is like having a boarding school is some like evil thing. There's also the narrative that like the narrative that the RCMP is awful. The RCMP is super paused. Um I don't know if they're as bad as the OPC though. The OPC or the OPP. The OPP might be worse. I'm not really sure. I don't really spend much time. I do love our cops, our law enforcement, but I don't really spend much time around police. I tend to be of the opinion that the less time you spend around police, the better. Um, but also, like the whole like narrative that people didn't die from diseases like naturally in the 19th century is just so bizarre to me. It's like, oh, these people in these schools died of illness, and like, well, but lots of like white people died of illness too. Like, it was a shitty time. We didn't have antibiotics. We didn't have vaccines for a lot of stuff. Sanitation wasn't as good as it is today. Like, a lot of people died from smallpox or cholera or typhoid or whatever. It's like, if you want to make the argument that the conditions were at these places were like worse than what the average person had to deal with, and the environment for spreading disease was substantially worse, or even that they weren't given a like adequate medical treatment, then I'm willing to listen to that and have that conversation. But that's not the narrative. The narrative is like, no one else in society died of like infectious diseases during the 19th century. It was only these people. It was only this people, and like, also that mass graves never are dug during pandemics. Like that happen all the time. Like, mass graves are like a normal part of pandemics. If a bunch of people die and you have to bury them quickly before they start to rot, it's just kind of the practical thing is to quickly dig graves. You don't have time to have funerals. Like, if like 80, if like like I don't know, like a couple dozen people die, then so, and that's kind of the thing. It's when you start. Okay, so to me, like, when I look at something, I kind of look at what the narrative is that people are trying to push, and whether the basic premise of it makes any sense. And I tend to look at that before I even look at the details. So like, the premise that there were not like infectious diseases, the premise that like mass graves were never a thing, the premise that uh that like poor white kids were not mistreated at all, and just stuff like it's just, it's based on so many premises that are absurd that I can't take it seriously. Like, with regards to the like the unmarked graves, the graves that had the like wooden crosses that rotted because it's been like 80 years. It's like, that is a sign of like of genocide. It's Because the police never like the police never ignore when a white person complains about something. That just never happens. If a white person complains about anything, it's immediately solved. But so there's a couple things, because I had to do some shit for work in dealing with indigenous people. I hate the whole gaslighting neo pagan thing. Like, I'm sure most of these people are atheists, to be honest, but they talk about like the Great Spirit, and they like force people to participate in their religious rituals. And it's just like a big it's just like a big form of gaslighting, and it's also I think it's a humiliation thing. I think it's to like force um it's to force like Christians to have to partake in pagan rituals, basically. And if you say no, then you'll be like, oh, it's not a religion, it's just their culture. And it's like, but my culture is that I'm Christian, and so can I say like the Lord's Prayer? No, you can't say the Lord's Prayer, but we can talk about Turtle Island. And some of the churches here will have land acknowledgments. I don't really get the point of land acknowledgement. Like, to me, a land acknowledgement is like, to me at least, it's like, nana nana nana, we got your land, you can't have it back. We're going to remind you ad nauseum that we took it from you. Like, I don't really get it. It's like, I'm trying to think of an example, like a similar example. Um, I don't know. You get what I'm saying, though, right? Like, oh, if Israel did land acknowledgements, that would be fucking amazing. If they did land acknowledgements in Israel, unlike we acknowledge the land that we're on used to belong to the Palestinians before we physically removed them. We want to move forward with the faith of reconciliation in the form of our bulldozers. Um, going down their doors. Okay, so Quebec. So Quebec is, I think the term is parochial. So Quebecers are extremely arrogant, kind of xenophobic and proud of their culture, but they're also extremely left wing. So they are the most feminist and anti-Christian province in Canada. Like if it comes to those things, they're extremely paused on it, but um they don't like non-French displays of culture. So like what they do in Quebec is they just ban all public displays of religious symbols basically. Like I'm pretty sure if you're like a government employee you can't wear crucifixes um under your shirt. Like you're not allowed to do that because that's violating separation of church and state. Um and that was done to to blow the Sikhs out. So like, oh, okay, we'll ban all religious symbols as a way to to make it uncomfortable for Sikhs. They believe in linguistic nationalism, so it'll be like Anglo's out, Haitians in based linguistic nationalism is kind of how Quebec often is. And yet they will be like they'll be like they reduced immigration when the ADQ I think came to power temporarily. It just goes back and forth. It's just weird. I think Quebec is just weird. Um, it might be that they are like legit like racist and xenophobic, but they're just they don't have the way to express it anymore. So it just kind of comes out as like this G slur left wing nationalism. Part of it is Quebec used to be the most conservative province by like a large margin. The aftermath of Vatican II and the Quiet Revolution, basically the Catholic Church literally went from like 80% mass attendance to like 15% mass attendance. I don't even think that's an exaggeration. It was something like that over the course of like a decade. Um, and that kind of tends to be what things are like in Quebec, where it's just extremely, yeah. I think the Catholic Church in Quebec was super anti-union, though, which was a problem, and it was also against modernizing the educational system. I don't know. I think Giesler's funny. Um, so the original origin of Giesler was mundane Matt called the word gook the G slur, and it was just I just thought the concept was funny of calling something the G slur. Uh, does anyone even like use that term? Like any does anyone even use that slur anymore? I've never like heard it. There's a guy I knew who went to teach English in Korea, and he like explained the word gook to them, and they just thought it was like the funniest thing ever, and they like ran around calling each other it. It's a funny sounding word. Just to be honest. I know the derogatory term that we have in Canada that, well, it's not used anymore, but we called the Japanese nippers. So there was a thing called nipper tipping, where you would go up behind like a Japanese Canadian who was fishing and like push them in the lake, and that would be nipper tipping. But old military people came up with a lot of those. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about immigration. Like, if they had have just let like however many Japanese are in, that wouldn't have really been an issue because they mostly just mixed in with the normal population, and they aren't even really a recognizable minority anymore. They also really weren't the problem. Like letting in like 30, 40,000 Japanese or whatever isn't really an issue compared to letting in like a million Somalis or whatever. Um, that is a good way to describe the French. The French are just extremely proud people, but it's left wing nationalism, and it's just a combination of like nationalism and uh, just they're just weird. They have these very conflicting things. The French are the most politically bipolar people in Europe. Every couple decades they will swing between like far left and far right, or further left and further right than what you see in most of Europe. Um, so that just kind of I find that's something you just tend to see with the French. Um, it just goes back and they just kind of swing back and forth. I guess damage to close enemies is okay. Use this with something better. Infuse it with a no, it's a parsley infused oil. That's what it is. Hey girl, what are you doing? She's just sitting on the back of my chair. Oh no, now she's gone. My chair is one of her favorite spots. Didn't Napoleon force the French to speak a specific version of French? Yes, probably. That's something that happened. So in the early modern period, or I guess the early modern, late modern, one of the things they wound up doing was a lot of countries tried to standardize its language, and part of that was forcing everybody in the country to. I think it's 500,000 immigrants we get a year in Canada or something. It's literally like it's literally like 3% of the population or something. It's I don't really follow it because it's too depressing, but it is literally like it's absurd. It's really high. The thing I don't get, and maybe someone can explain this to me. Why is New York complaining that illegal immigrant like so they sent all the illegal immigrants to New York, and New York's complaining that they're running out of housing space, and that like all these illegal immigrants are taking up room and they're raising the price of housing. So I actually don't really get that because I've been told my entire life that the only way to decrease housing prices is more immigration. We have to like we have to make Toronto a we have to make Toronto like a city of like 20 million people, and that will reduce housing prices. Um, is just throwing like hundreds of thousands of people into urban centers every year. That will reduce housing prices somehow. That is the claim, at least, and they have stubbornly stuck to it. There is a like, so I never know about Canada how pause it actually is, because anytime like anytime there's something online, it immediately just gets like flooded with like edge lords. Like if you look at like CBC's YouTube account, they normally disable comments because they get ratioed so bad and everyone just shits on them. Um, so it's hard to know sometimes. No, but as I say to Americans, the Conservative Party of Canada is probably socially about the same way. No, because of police. It's hard to tell. The Conservative Party is probably maybe slightly to the right of the Democrats. Maybe. Um, I think if you exclude crime, they're probably where the Democrats are. I would say. Um, yeah, I got my parents Christmas gifts. I got my dad a big thing of Blue Mountain Coffee. I don't know if you guys know what Blue Mountain Coffee is. Blue Mountain Coffee is a coffee that's grown in Jamaica, in the Blue Mountains, and it is known for being very mild and it has a very pleasant, smooth taste. It's just kind of like a premium one, but my dad really likes it. That was actually Ian Fleming's favorite coffee and James Bond's favorite coffee, because most of the James Bond books were written at Ian Fleming's estate in uh, his GoldenEye estate in Jamaica, and he would sit there and write it while sipping on Blue Mountain coffee. But no, it's really I like he likes coffee, so that's nice because you can at least like, and then you can get some funny like names to it. But yeah, I normally get him a big bag of that. You can actually get coffee from St. Helena, the coffee that Napoleon liked, but that's really expensive. Like, it's an absurd amount of money to get St. Helena coffee. What was I thinking about? As for my mother, she's really, really hard to buy for. So I'm actually not entirely sure what I'm gonna get her for Christmas yet. Australia is really bad. It's an Anglo thing, but like there's lots of places in Europe that are also bad. So the explanation that I was given by a friend of mine is Sweden is a Melvin who's being cocked and isn't aware of it. The Anglos are Chads who are being cocked and truly believe that Ahmed is their son, and so they enforce political correctness in a more like hardcore way. Um, the UK is the worst, though. I think of the Anglosphere countries, the UK is probably the worst. Um, the UK seems like hell, to be honest, in a lot of ways. I'm not sure about Australia. Australia might be more authoritarian. Um, no, the UK is a really nice place to visit. I went there. I definitely recommend going, but I don't know like how anyone can live there. To be honest. Although to be honest, where I would actually kind of like to retire. So my meme dream is that when I retire, I'll retire to like Cornwall or like somewhere in southwest England. Southwest England looks like heaven. It looks like paradise. It's mild all year round. There's been very little immigration to that area. It just looks really like nice. Um, Although honestly, the nicest place to live on Earth looks like the Azores. The Azores just look beautiful. I'd go there if they weren't in the middle of fucking nowhere, but that's the Azores, the Azore Islands. Yeah, when I went to the UK, the number one thing I wanted to do was I wanted to go to Dover. So I went to Dover and I got to walk along the right White Cliffs, and that was just a really like that was a really it was a great moment. It is amazing to see them, just these giant white cliffs of chalk overlooking the English Channel. Dover Castle's pretty cool too. There's some other parts of the UK I kind of want to go to, but I'm not sure. The next place I'm going to go to is Germany, probably. I've been trying to go to Germany for like 3 years now. It's just stuff keeps coming up. Well, COVID happened, and then I had to move for my new job. So next year, though, I'm going to go to Germany. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do South Germany. So I'm going to like start in, I guess, kind of around Alsace maybe, and then end in Prague or something like that, Prague or Munich or something. If you haven't read it, the Band of Brothers book is really good. Major Witters wrote a autobiography. I It was actually a really interesting book. I read it. I liked reading it. Also read To Hell and Back, Aubrey Murphy's book, which was also interesting. I like that Sabaton made like basically took his poem and made it into a thing. What would I do if an anti-immigration riot broke out in Germany? I'm gonna assume that the Federal Bureau of Infrastructure asked you to ask that question as part of a work job program. I would do whatever served American interests and whatever was the most helpful to Israel. So that's my answer. So I was looking at Twitter. So it does seem that the Human Instrumentality Project is actually being questioned by quite a few people of our generation. Like there are some people who are like, I don't think there was enough LCL fluid that was generated for there to have been 6 million people um, who were taken up into the giant naked ray. So what was that? It was that. It was going to be the Human Instrumentality Project. What was the other one? Diablo 2. That was the other one, and then I thought I had come up with one that was something different. There was Final Jeopardy. Was one, but yeah, some people are starting to apparently like our generation, like millennials and Zoomers, just don't care about it anymore. So I have no idea what Irini's up to. Irini's podcast was so boring it wasn't worth like trolling him anymore. So I just stopped that. I feel kind of bad. I should take that channel down at some point. That was I get that he deserves it. And I get that all I did was like just take literally shit that he recorded and put on the internet. But I don't know. It's just his life is so pathetic. It's just I feel bad. It's like if you're a reading, your life is bad enough. Glitch was some of the the jabs. Okay, okay, I wasn't sure. And I've said this many times. So my opinion on the COVID vaccine was I didn't think it was like nearly as unsafe as most people in this sphere did. I thought that it was probably somewhat more. I thought it was probably somewhat more unsafe than. Um, I thought it was somewhat more unsafe than a normal vaccine because it was rush developed and it used newer technologies. I didn't like a lot of the anti-vaxxers were insane, like the people who said that it turned your blood into tar and stuff like that. So I just thought, it probably is going to be have a somewhat higher chance of side effects than like a normal vaccine will, but it's probably not that high. Um, but then they said if anyone like has any questions, then you're mentally ill. Like not even that you like think that the whole thing is like a conspiracy theory or it's like turning frogs gay or something. Like I didn't believe any of that. I just thought that yeah, it probably is going to have because it has less time to be tested. We don't really have time to see what the long-term side effects are. And I'm like I understand that. I don't like regard that as being a conspiracy. It freaked me out once they started saying no, there's not only is they like not dangerous, but you're mentally ill if you have any concerns about it. Um, and I just like that just stuff like that creeps me out. It's kind of like with the whole ethics and video game journalism thing. It's like not only um was it the like not only was the review the submission of the reviews not only was it reliable, but there was the fewest missed clicks of all time. There was the fewest missed clicks, the most people, like the fewest reviews got rejected. What was that noise? I don't know. The fewest reviews got rejected. Changing our entire video game review system because of COVID and having to have everyone mail in their reviews instead of hand them in person. Not only did that not like that didn't not only did that not affect the results of the video game reviews, it also like was better somehow. Um, it was better somehow, and you're mentally ill if you have any questions. Like not even if you think it's rigged, but you're like you have the question, maybe like completely switching the entire review process might have had some issues with it. Maybe there were some problems. And it's like that's what makes me think that more than anything else really is that response. And that's kind of one of the issues about lying when you don't need to. Is the probably the way to deal with it is to say, yeah, there was probably some issues, but they were accidents done by having to change the review process at the last minute, and it wasn't enough to change the overall outcome. So like they could have said that, but they like instead they just said anybody who doesn't agree like is mentally ill. Not only that, but there's never been any cases of irregularity in any American review process. I am in compliance with the YouTube TOS, even though they changed the TOS. But what was I thinking of again? Like I agree that the corrupt bargain never happened, that there was no electoral fraud in the 19th century, that nothing suspicious, nothing sussy went down with Kennedy and Nixon. That anybody who thinks that is mentally ill. I also think that the election of Uncle Adolf was a completely legitimate. So I don't believe that. But yeah, with regards to the vaccine, yeah, I got vaccinated. I forget if I got two or three boosters. I might have had to get three boosters, but it was legal. Like I had to get it as part of my work. Also, I lived with my parents. I actually had no issue with like I never had any ideological opposition to taking the vaccine. I think a lot of people were upset that I took it. I don't think I ever said I didn't take it. I think I just said that I found the whole like you're mentally ill if you have any concerns about it thing really sussy. Was I pretty sure all I said about it. The sussy squad. So the part about 1984. So I actually thought that was. I mean, like if you want to get a vaccine, just get a vaccine. Like the most of the anti vaxxers, a lot of them are frankly insane. Um, like obviously vaccines work, or we would still have smallpox. I mean, we don't have smallpox anymore. We don't have whooping cough. We don't have all these other things. Obviously, these vaccines work. Once again, if you didn't want to take the COVID vaccine because you thought that it was rushed, um, and used what you felt was unproven technologies, then I understand. Um, I know a number of people who had negative side effects from it. I did not have any negative side effects for it. When I actually got COVID, it was mild. It just felt kind of like a bad cold for a day or two, but um, nothing too like crazy or anything. But I do think that the preferable, at least from my limited understanding, version of vaccines is the weakened or dead virus version. I would prefer to take that than to take some sort of RNA virus. Like my understanding is most vaccines are just like a dead version of the virus, and it just allows your body to build antibio, antibodies to fight it later. Like I always get a I always get a flu shot. I don't really see why not to get a flu shot. I'm not allergic to it, and it's just a weakened version of the virus. So it's one of those things where I mean, COVID was one of those things where I had you had to kind of like side with one extreme or the other, um, because there wasn't really a kind of like a moderate position on it at all. It was either like COVID was completely fake, no one died. The vaccine was like a microchip that's going to turn you into like a woman. Um, or like we just have to lock everything down forever. There wasn't really any kind of middle ground or just like other opinion on it. At least that's what I found, but your different your experience may vary. But my one friend said I'm pro vaccine, but I'm not pro this vaccine, which I thought was kind of a funny way of putting it. But so yeah, I'll start putting out those short anime reviews. Because there's a bunch of them I just have to get through that I haven't gotten through. I've just been so distracted with just Ukraine stuff. Just because so much stuff has been happening lately, it's kind of hard to like keep up with it. And it doesn't look like it's going to slow down. Are you going to do more history videos like you used to? Hopefully in the new year. The reason I have not been doing history videos is, and I've said this a number of times, I'm doing finishing up my uh I had a couple names for it. I have like a bunch of series that I never do entries into, and I just use that as a way to organize it. Um, I just haven't really been doing that much reading of like nonfiction because I've been just spending all my time, all my intellectual capacity for that goes to like my master's degree. So I'll get back to like reading more stuff in the new year, hopefully, because I'm almost done my master's. So that'll be good. I don't. I wonder how many like people in the sector have graduate degrees. Like if it's most people or very few people or what it is. But oh, okay. See you, Swords Master. Have a good evening, man. God bless. I don't know. I just kind of like this tuning. I like Lamilar a lot. Um so I like that kind of material. Um or I don't know if that's it's no, it's Lamilar. I kind of like it. I just don't like any of the other armors as much as I like that one. I think the greatest why can't you okay, I'm going to say something really degenerate. Why can't you adjust female characters' boob sizes? That is the question that I want answered. That is the question that needs to be answered for the good of humanity. Okay. Yeah, a lot of these just look way too heavy for a rogue to wear. So, let's see items. Okay, that's true. That would objectify the object you're playing, right? You raise a good point. Barb sword, balance sword. I don't like the bone. I think the bone blades just look kind of weird. Sword with no point. That's kind of a cool. I kind of like that one. Actually, the Marrow short sword's not bad looking. Okay, let's see. What do we have? Arrow crossbow. I kind of like that look of that one. It's not bad. Looks a little ridiculous though. I think that's a repeating crossbow. Boob represent. It does matter. It matters so much. No, you know what? Why? Because that would be like appealing to the people who buy their games. And one of the biggest like parts of modern media design is to make stuff that does not appeal to the that is not intended for the people who use it. Let's see. The Sink Dweller says, "You're a good guy, Argent. One of the last things that keeps me on this website. Go buy yourself a cookie or something." Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I probably should not buy myself a cookie, but I will. I will buy myself something. I'm going to be making my food for the next couple weeks on Sunday. I don't. I'm kind of too lazy to cook, so I just make like a massive pot of something and then just freeze it, and then that's my lunch for the next couple of weeks. So the thing I don't get is, and why in Diablo 4 can you not change your like hair or facial like features at all? It just seems weird to me that like Blizzard, who makes all their money off of nickel and diming people, um, just decided not to. I don't know. In this case. Anyways, I think that's good for the evening. God bless everybody. Have a good evening.